It was supposed to be just another film shoot. A gritty indie crime drama with a low budget and high ambition, set in the crumbling remnants of an abandoned textile factory on the outskirts of Providence. The place had no name now, just a faded, rusted sign that once said Dunridge Fabric Company. Its official closure was never documented properly, but locals said a fire had shut it down in the early 70s. No survivors, only soot. Producers were thrilled. Grime, broken beams, and smoke-stained walls gave it that perfect dystopian feel. No need for set design. For actress Lauren Field, the lead of the film, it was her first major role. She'd done commercials, some voiceover work, and a few cable shorts. This was supposed to be her breakout moment. Something about the eerie location stirred her nerves more than she wanted to admit, but she brushed it off. Everyone on the set did. That was the unspoken agreement. Don't acknowledge the unease. The shoot had been going smoothly until that evening, the third day. Lauren was in the makeshift dressing room. In reality, it was a rusted-out supply closet where crew had installed a mirror and set up vanity lights using extension cords. The door didn't lock right. It never had. She was sitting in front of the mirror, applying mascara and softly rehearsing her lines. Outside, distant thunder murmured. The air felt heavier than usual. Then, knock, knock. 5 minutes, Lauren, called the assistant director, Nate. I just need 2, she called back without looking up. But the moment the footsteps retreated, something shifted in the room. A draft swept through the vents, ice cold. The lights flickered. Lauren paused, staring at her own reflection. For just a second, the reflection didn't blink with her. A glitch? She leaned closer, her breath caught in her throat. The face in the mirror was hers, but smiling, widely, cruelly, while she wasn't. The lights went out. She jumped back, heart thudding. Hello? No answer. Her throat tightened. The air smelled wrong, old, like scorched wool. She scrambled for the door and tried the knob. It wouldn't turn. Stuck. Hey, Nate? Somebody? Silence. Panic coiled in her chest. She began to pound on the door, but her fists made no sound, as if the air absorbed it all. Suddenly she heard something behind her, a dragging sound. When she turned, the mirror was no longer reflecting the room. Instead, it showed a massive open warehouse filled with smoke and figures walking slowly in rows, burned, blackened, unblinking. Then one of them looked up and pointed straight at her. Elsewhere, the crew was growing impatient. Nate paced outside the door. Lauren, you ready? No response. He knocked again. Nothing. Annoyed, he twisted the knob. It didn't budge. What the hell? He turned to the production assistant. This thing stuck again? She shrugged. It wasn't 5 minutes ago. Nate sighed and kicked the door. Then again. From inside, they heard a thud, then scraping, and then a scream. High-pitched, shattering, inhuman. Crew members gathered. Someone ran to get the on-site medic. Nate grabbed a wrench and smashed the door open. What they found made several people scream. Lauren was suspended 2 feet above the ground, hair splayed around her like a halo, body rigid, face turned toward the wall. Her hands were limp at her sides, but her head kept banging slowly, thud, 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 against the concrete. Mona, Lauren? Lauren, can you hear me? At the sound of his voice, her body froze. Her head slowly turned. Her eyes were pure white, rolled back, and she smiled. Then she whispered, with a voice that wasn't hers, "Get out. This is our shift," and collapsed. Lauren awoke in the hospital with no memory of what had happened. She claimed to remember doing her makeup, then waking up in a white room. Doctors wrote it off as exhaustion, maybe a seizure, stress. But the crew knew better. No one returned to the warehouse. Filming was halted indefinitely. The producers swore off the location and moved the shoot elsewhere. Locals who'd once worked in the mill before the fire said the tragedy wasn't just mechanical. The fire had started during the night shift, a controversial decision made by the company to push workers harder. Everyone on that shift had perished, dozens. And now, perhaps, they were still showing up, ready for their shift. Lauren never returned to the set. After she was released from the hospital, she disappeared from the public eye entirely. No interviews, no social media. Her agent said she was taking time to rest. But insiders knew she had given up acting for good. The producers tried to salvage what they had filmed and relocate, but something was wrong with the footage. Not technically. The lighting was fine, the sound clean, but there were shadows moving where there shouldn't have been. Faces in the background that none of the crew recognized, reflections that didn't match the actors' movements. One of the editors suffered a panic attack after reviewing a scene frame by frame and refused to return to the project. "They're still working," he kept muttering. "They never clocked out." Eventually, the film was shelved. Quietly. That should have been the end of it. But a year later, Nate, the assistant director, got a call from an old friend, a director shooting a new project. They needed a gritty, industrial location for a flashback scene, something real, raw. Nate hesitated, then finally gave them the address of the old Dunridge mill. He warned them, told them what had happened. The friend laughed it off. "You just don't want us to outdo your indie darling," he joked. 3 weeks later, Nate got another call, only breathing on the other end. He hung up. The next morning, he saw the local news. A young actress named Claire Rivas was found catatonic in an abandoned building on the edge of town, a building Nate recognized instantly. She'd been discovered in the same supply room Lauren once used. Blood on the mirror, the word "shift" scratched into the glass from the inside. That night, Nate drank himself into a stupor. He dreamed of Lauren, not how she used to look, but how she looked in that room, levitating, pale, eyes rolled back. But in the dream, she didn't scream. She just whispered over and over, "We never left. We're still on the clock." In the weeks that followed, reports began to spread. People who wandered into the old mill site said they felt watched. One college film student claimed she saw figures walking in unison through the second floor at night. Another said they heard machines whirring, looms and presses, even though there was no electricity. A homeless man who slept near the property vanished. His makeshift tent remained undisturbed, with all his belongings inside. Only a coin was found beside it, melted, as if pulled from a fire. Then it escalated. A local paranormal YouTube channel snuck in for a live stream. Viewers watched in fascination as two hosts explored the building, joked around, and dared each other to go deeper into the shadows. At exactly 46 minutes in, the feed froze. The screen glitched, pixelated. Then a face filled the camera. A woman's face, ashen and twitching, her eyes blank. She screamed directly into the lens, but her scream didn't sound human. It was layered, like dozens of voices speaking over one another, out of sync.
Then, black screen. The channel was taken down the next day. One of the hosts was found wandering the streets barefoot, muttering the phrase, "It's our territory, get out, get out, get out." The other was never found. 10 years have passed. The city finally erected a fence around the property and declared it a hazardous site. Trespassers would be prosecuted. No one argues. No one protests. The neighbors avoid it. Uber drivers refuse to drop people off near it. But sometimes you still hear the machines, the rhythmic thud of looms, the distant clang of steel carts, the soft hiss of steam. And if you stand close enough to the main building, especially on a cold autumn night, some swear they've seen movement inside, not ghosts, not phantoms, workers, pale, silent, their uniforms still smoldering, their hands black with ash, eyes empty, moving in unison between rusted machines as if nothing ever happened, as if they were still being timed, still on the floor,
still waiting for someone to relieve them. But no one does, because no one clocks out